Ta-da! What is happening, my friends out there? Yours truly, Rockin' Dave, the real deal. North Fort Myers, Southwest Florida. Let me turn the little camera up here a little bit. And just as the video implies, 50 years ago, actually, sometime this month, I started playing. So technically, I was not 11 years old. I was 10. My birthday is in November 17th. But the course, it was in grade school, went through, actually went through the rest of the year. Because I remember we did an assembly hall for Christmas, 1974. So I could technically say I started when I was 10, but I always say, 11 because it was so close to my birthday. And actually, I hope everyone's out there is doing great. By the way, I want to thank everyone for tuning in. Way we get some more people in. I'm gonna see if we got anyone in the chat. Hey, John Dawson, what's happening, man? Thank you for tuning in, brother. Really appreciate it. Really appreciate it. We appreciate everybody out there. Maybe if I do a little bit of shredding later. The guitar is great, man. This guitar, bought this in 2000, and did a lot of shows with it. Got the Roland pickup on there, and it's been a great guitar, man. What can I say? Neck through, it looks awesome, it plays awesome, it sounds awesome. It's a keeper. But when I started playing, it was on a nylon string guitar, and Lakeview High School was a high school I went to, but the grade school I went to was Horace Greeley Elementary, and it was the old Horace Greeley. If anyone out there from Chicago, my age, you'll remember. It was right on the corner of Gray Street and Sheffield. Now, if it's still there, it got torn down in his apartments. That's in there, taking place, and then Horace Greeley moved further down by Gill Park on Irving Park Avenue toward Broadway. I did not go to that school. I graduated from the old school. But we had the guitar class there, and originally I wanted to play the bass because it was electric, And there was another David in the class. It was like 4 or 5 of us. I think it was 5 of us. And when our teacher said, "Okay, David, you play the bass," I got all excited. Well, it wasn't David Byron that was going to play the bass. It was David Brown that wound up playing the bass. Okay. So I missed out on the last steel string guitar, and I got stuck with the nylon string guitar, which I really didn't care because I didn't have a guitar. I did not have one. So our lessons were on Thursday, and we took the guitar home Thursday and had it Friday and over the weekend to practice for our assembly hall. And it's ironic that the nylon string was the guitar I learned on, because later on I started getting into classical and flamenco guitar, and that's the style, along with the jazz fusion. But that's the style I was getting hired for, and doing all these shows and playing over in Europe with my wife Deb. And I tell you what, when I met Deb, and she heard me play, because I was in a metal band, so when she really heard me play, she was like, "Oh man, you're too good for this. You know, you gotta do something with this. How come you haven't?" I looked at her and says, "And I have no one helping me. I don't know." She said, "Oh, I could do that." And when she took over the reins, things were happening. You know, we traveled all over the place. And honestly, it really was based on that style of music. But I also loved the electric guitar and plugging in and using distortion and all that. So the fusion is something I've been playing since high school. Getting into it in my later years of high school and into my uh, very late teens and 20s. And my guitar buddies would get together and have these jam sessions. And it was all fusion based. And that's the summer of 1981 is when I first heard of Al Di Meola, and I was blown away. I was blown away with Eddie Van Halen's Eruption, of course. That was very impressive. But when I heard Di Meola pick every note so fast and precise, I thought, wow, man, no way someone could do something like that. That's just too hard. And he was doing it. So that's how I started to develop my picking technique. But when I first started, it was just literally playing chords like this. I'll never forget learning the A major chord. And back then I think I did it with these three fingers. Later on I incorporated use of these three fingers. And in the very beginning stages we were not so much learning songs as I mean we did learn some songs, I guess songs that they were writing, some folk songs to play at the assembly hall. But what we had to do, we had to play rhythms. So you used to fretting the chord and then strumming. Well, a lot of it was and then later on we were able to learn different types of strumming patterns and then learning chord change. Well, we had to physically take our fingers off. I'll tell you what, when you're first learning to play, those chords can be the hardest, especially now since they get so much ignored. When people want to learn to play guitar now, they want to start shredding, and it's a lot of fun playing fast. Don't get me wrong, but and then they want to learn all these songs on top of it. And there's nothing wrong with that. But when you don't learn how to play these chords and do chord shifting, you know you have to use multiple fingers and have them move to different shapes, but all at the same time. What I mean by same time, that hand's got to move to this. So all your fingers are moving. They're moving to different shapes, but your hand movement is constant when you're shifting chords. Plus, with learning how to play these rhythms, our teacher was basically, we had two teachers, they were basically instilling in our minds how to create rhythms. And really, in essence, that's how you create songs. Now, there's, a songwriting process could be way in depth, into that area with, actually notation and music theory now. But the basic foundation is if the chord sounds good and if it could blend in with another chord. Now, how do you make those chord changes with a smooth transition to the point where it starts to really sound like music? It has a flow. If I take D, and then learning little tricks about just plugging a few strings, but reverse. And things of that nature. But let me just rewind to that time because it was so different. We had nowhere near what we have today. And even our source of getting music, again, I was 10, 11 years old, and all we had was AM radio. And then I had my dad's record collection, which was primarily motion picture soundtrack. It was classical music, with the exception of the soundtrack from Easy Rider and the soundtrack from Midnight Cowboy, and later on the K-Tel records, You know, if anyone remembers K-Town. And the only Kiss song I had was Doctor Love. And I liked it because it had that electric guitar sound, you know. It had, I don't know how to play the song, but my point is that so hearing that was like so cool. And then getting the Aerosmith Live bootleg, that was cool. And then Deep Purple's Made in Japan, that was awesome. And then later on, you know, when I started working and getting into buying Rush albums, Led Zeppelin, and actually Stairway to Heaven was the first song I learned how to play. It was this section I learned how to play. Like just like that. Because one of the projects we had to do in school was to move from an A minor chord into a C major chord. You got A minor, and I call it like stepping into it. And then going back to A minor. And I would practice that because I liked the way it sounded. And my friend Greg, who used to live next door to me, said, "Wow, that sounds like that song that my brother Timmy was playing." And I would hear it over and over again, Stairway to Heaven. But again, I was a kid. I didn't know what it was. So it started actual playing back then, at that point. And when I was in high school, I was always fascinated by the Spanish guitar because hearing it on the Twilight Zone, there was an episode called The Gift. It had Spanish guitar in the background. And then Rod Serling later on had a TV show called Night Gallery. And he had a episode called Cool Air. And it was using Spanish guitar as a backdrop. And it just intrigued me. And I think I also heard Charo playing on the old Merv Griffin show. I didn't see it, but I heard. Because we were little kids, we had to go to bed early. Our parents would make us go to sleep early. But I would hear it. They'd sit up and, watch these programs. So all this stays in your mind as you get older. And then when we moved to by Wrigley Field, I wasn't like right next to these blues clubs, but you got to remember, in the early to mid 70s, you didn't have these boom boxes or these subwoofers in your cars, and you could not really blast the radio. You didn't have it. So what I would hear, I'm going to see if I got in the chat here. So what we would have was, and we didn't really have air conditioning. I think downstairs my great-grandmother had a window air, similar to what we got in our Florida room, an old Sears Kenmore. So you had the windows open, and then when the bands would play, if the windows, just like when, literally I was a block and a half north from Wrigley Field. I was on Kenmore Avenue between Gray Street and Byron Street, and then I was on the 3800 block of Kenmore. My friend Mario, he lived, both Mario and Robert, he lived on the 3700 block of Kenmore, and that went from Gray Street to Waveland, and then right there's Wrigley Field. If the wind was blowing south and it was a ball game and it was packed, you really sometimes didn't know there was a game because you couldn't hear any cheering because the wind's blowing south. But when the wind would blow north, man, you'd hear everything. So likewise, when we would get these breezy nights, and if someone was playing at the Piano Man, it was like a blues jazz bar on Gray Street and Clark Street, the sound would carry, and I would hear that. And then when I started getting old enough to hang out with my friends, to go wandering around, then we'd go down Clark Street, and we'd be by the blues clubs, and then later on I got to do a jam session over at Kingston Mines, and all of that, and as time was progressing. But I do remember when I was in high school, I wanted so bad to learn how to play like that Spanish style, so that I could do and only one guy showed me what the notes were to get that sound. It's a half step, whole step increment, and I'll just do it with E, F, G. I thought, okay, that's cool. That kind of sounds like what I was trying to hear, because I wasn't hearing this on AM radio. We had no YouTube. I did not have any cassettes or records of any Spanish guitar. So I had to rely on my memory from hearing Charo playing on Merv Gifford and Twilight Zone episode, and we didn't have VCRs. So everything had to be done by memory. So that was kind of a pain. But I remember in high school, everybody was picking down, 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 you know. I can't even do it that way now. I had such a bad habit with my picking. And when I learned how to do alternate picking and get a metronome and work with my alternate picking, that's when the doors opened up. And it was the summer of 1981, and I was practicing and practicing. Like I said, the summer of 81 is when I first heard Al Di Meola. I heard Alan Holdsworth, and then I heard Al Di Meola, and I was like just blown away. And I would just work on these exercises, just picking 4 times. I mean, I would do this 4 or 5 times up and down the fretboard. And sometimes it would take me a half hour or whatever, but I was obsessed with it. And then I'd work with my scales, you know, until I could get it to that point. And when I was finally able to get to that point, it was like, man, the way I felt was like, this must be how people feel when they win the lottery or win $1 million, you know. It was great because I was able to achieve something I was never able to do. And when you get that feeling and you're able to actually do it, and you could hear, because I would hear the playback because we would record ourselves on little cassette recorders, boom boxes. And when I heard the playback, I couldn't believe that I was able to just finally, man, after all this practice and I was putting in, oh my God, I would get so frustrated. It was a great, great time. We did a lot of wood shedding. I do remember it when I was graduating high school. I was 17 years old. First, I was going to check out Berklee College of Music, and then I got wind of Guitar Institute Technology, you know, GIT in California, through the old Guitar Player magazines. I thought, oh, wow, this sounds cool. And I do remember I wrote to them, and I got the package and all the information. And in my mind, it was a school that 100% all day practicing. I don't think all of it was. I don't know. I didn't go there. But my grandfather convinced me not to go because he said, look, if there's no job placement program and there's no, you get stuck out there and you got to pay back all these loans, you know, you already do know how to play. But, you know, he didn't understand. I really wanted to just enhance what I already knew. So hanging out with my friends Andy and Angel, and then later on their teacher Yvonne, and then Louis Pacheco and Rob, we all practiced together. We would do these drill exercises. A lot of times it was just Andy and Angel and myself. We'd do all these exercises, and I got thinking, we're doing this all day, and then we would jam together and record ourselves, and I would see progress like within a short amount of time. And when I mean a short amount of time, a matter of months compared to years. But because we were not doing any other curriculum that you would normally do in either a trade school or a full-blown college, there was no curriculum like that. It was 100% guitar playing that we were doing and practicing. We practiced together. We were learning how to run scales in 3 different 3-part harmonies and all kind of stuff. Learned the fretboard. Didn't really learn music theory per se, as far as I knew how to read notes. And then when I was getting my classical guitar books, everything was notation. Even when I had my Led Zeppelin book, there was no tablature. I didn't see tablature till I think it was 1983. The one magazine called Guitar for the Practicing Musician, and what they had in tablature was a Al Di Meola piece called Passion, Grace, and Fire. And that was the first time I saw tablature. not realizing that tablature really dates back to the Renaissance period. And how I found out about that was, being a member of the, Deb and I, we were members of the Guitar Foundation of America, which was all classical guitar. And I get all these magazines called Soundboard, and they would run these articles on the Renaissance period. And they would have pictures of what the tablature looked like. And it wasn't a bunch of numbers always. It was like letters and weird different signs, but it had like the lines representing the strings. And then when I was playing at the Bristol Renaissance Fair, and then all that kind of came together as far as my study in the Renaissance music. But going back to when I started playing, you're young, you have all these dreams, and because it was a different time. There was video games, but not like, they were primitive video games, because you got to go back to 1974. 74 and up. I never stopped playing. Never. Once I started, I never stopped. So, our thing was, this is cool, man. And then, the more you listen to the local rock stations, later on, the Loop FM 98, where Chicago rocks, that's what its original state was. And the call numbers, FM 98. Later on, when they brought the Loop back, it became 97.9. But we had the Loop, and then we had WMET, the Mighty Met, and they was pushing all these rock and, hard rock. Randy Tritt, what's happening, brother? So good to hear from you. So good to see you. Hope all is well, man. So, my journey playing guitar, just like anything else, you're young. Wow, this would be cool to be able to make money with this. You got the rock star thing going on, And of course, I worked to support everything, like all of us did. Yeah, we are too, brother. We survived the hurricane. You guys survived. Helene, that was bad, man. That came by you guys, man. Oh my God, that was real bad. I'm going to talk briefly toward the end of this live stream about, some more places that we kind of lost due to hurricanes and situations like that. Yeah, you got hit hard, man. Yeah. And are you guys still in the recovery mode? Because, this is what people don't understand. When you see this on the news and then it kind of goes away, out of sight, out of mind. But when you are there every single day, and you're constantly looking at destroyed buildings and that, it doesn't go away. When we got hit with Ian, there's still buildings that smashed. So the local news carries it, but the national news carries it for a while, then all of a sudden, goes away. Yeah, not for everyone else that's not in that area, but for those who are in that area, it don't go away, man. So being young and then, getting myself around, when you go to the blues jams and then you start watching the professional people, that's another thing that got me good, is watching people better than you and then going home and trying to mimic what they're doing and just practice and practice and practice. Same thing when I was in high school. I had guys that, they were better than me, and that's how I was learning. And I remember had a cassette tape. I had the album, but I also had the cassette tape of Give Me Shelter. And I was trying to learn part of the solo to Give Me Shelter, the live version, with Mick Taylor. And I couldn't exactly cop all the riffs. I was getting myself frustrated, of course. I knew the chord progression was something like this. C minor, B flat major, A flat major. My bending strings were not that strong yet, but they were definitely getting there because I was doing it all the time. I would play the wrong notes, but they would still fit with the chord. They were not the exact notes that they were playing. And that's what was getting me frustrated. Let's see. Oh, my lawyer. Okay, let me see this. My lawyer that has my dad's case gave me a reissue 1960s. Oh, Gibson Hummingbird, bro. Yeah, boom. Oh, dude, keep that guitar, man. Keep that guitar. Let me see. First of all, okay, so he's working on your dad's case. Yeah, that's a treasure. That's a treasure right there, Randy. I wish I would have kept some of the stuff I had, man. I mean, I was young and stupid. That's, I mean, what else could I say? You think time stands still? You think they're always going to reproduce and remake the exact same stuff? They don't. And then what you had before becomes uh, vintage, you know. So that guitar is a keeper, man. That's definitely a keeper. So my journey playing was not always easy. However, what I would hear in my mind or try to mimic in my mind, it never really seemed to be hard. Or let me put it this way: it never seemed hard for me to come up with ideas for whatever reason. You know, I used to draw and sketch a lot, so I was always very creative, never trying to copy it, and not realizing I'm not trying to copy anybody, I'm just doing whatever came to mind. And which is I'm getting back into the art world and kind of going back to that mindset. It's interesting because I left it to play guitar, and now I'm not leaving guitar, but now getting back into the art. It's like I picked up where I left off with my mindset of like, what do I see in my mind, and then doing landscaping and things of that nature. But basically, there's something magical when you're not 100% formally trained. You find ways to start creating only because you're hearing things in your head and you're just trying to mimic what you're hearing in your head. So I do remember I'd taken one classical guitar lesson, and this had been, I want to say, maybe 1983, because I had bought an Alvarez classical guitar that had a shadow pickup in the bridge. So instead of the regular bridge, it had the pickup with the little plug-in on the bottom, and it was a 1/8 jack you plug in. And I had that guitar for a few years. But I took that guitar downtown. I wanted to say it was Sherry Brenner. There's a place called Sherry Brenner downtown Chicago on Michigan Avenue. Nothing but high-end classical guitars. Real small shop. They got some of the inexpensive ones, but then they got like a back wall. Well, they got, man, $20,000 guitars, and none of them plug in or have a cutaway. So the woods are primo. This is what they had. Segovia's guitars in there that he would come when he would play at the Auditorium Theater, and he'd go there and check out some guitars, some Ramirez guitars. So, anyways, I remember I was warming up. I went upstairs because their lessons were upstairs, and I just wanted to experience it. It was a half hour, and I was already, doing stuff like this. This way of playing has always been my natural way of playing, trying to mimic what I was hearing. And then I work with scales, and how I developed was, in my mind, when I'm playing 3 notes, I'll play use with 3 fingers. I never really sat down and practiced it, but just play it. Anyways, the instructor had me waiting in the little lobby area there while he gets ready for the lesson. And he heard me doing, I think it was doing stuff like this. Much more accurate than that on the acoustic guitar. I mean, it was very precise. I'll never forget this. I kid you not. He opens up the door and he does this. he's doing this, watching me. Oh, you're using a pick. Oh, he thought I was using my fingers. He told me, well, we don't, us classical guitar players, we don't use a pick, we use our fingers. Okay. But he did say that was impressive. And I mean, I'm just trying to develop myself, to where I want to be. And I can't even remember what stuff he wrote out for me. A couple of classical pieces that later on, when I started getting into this on my own, very heavily, I found out that some of them were some of the pieces that were later on. I still got my books up here, my classical books. I buy it from over at Brookdale Music in Naperville, Illinois. I had some from downtown Chicago, Carl Fisher Music on Wabash. I'm pretty sure it was on Wabash, right along the train tracks, the L tracks. And they had 4 stories. They're all sheet music and all kind of stuff. And I do remember buying my first metronome. It was a big box that plugged in. All I would do is tick, 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 tick. That's all I needed to get my accuracy. So as time was developing, I was still like on this fork in the road. I liked the classical, I liked the fusion, I liked the metal, and I was just trying to incorporate everything, man, into this one melting pot. A lot of it really was turning into the fusion because I was into Al Di Meola, and then Santana has a few fusion albums, Caravanserai, Boboletta, album called Oneness. And a lot of people, they think Santana is this Oya Come Avon, Black Magic Woman, and there's a lot of stuff he did that was just, it was great because he makes the guitar sing. Whether you like him, whether you don't like him, you cannot deny it. When you hear Carlos, you know it's him. No one else sounds like him. The only one that's kind of close is Al Di Meola, especially at that time. Now there's a lot of people that, myself included, because I was very much heavily influenced by that. I just loved the melodic playing as well as the speed burst. And I remember when I was getting heavily into the metal scene, it was a lot of fun, the shredding, before it was called shredding. And I had an Ibanez Destroyer. I traded my Ibanez Artist, dumb move. I traded my 1978 Ibanez Artist and the guitar that was, I thought, given to me as a trade. Gibson, was it J50 or J55? Those 2 guitars, straight for a very, very inexpensive Ibanez Destroyer that had a bolt-on neck. And it was a blue burst with yellow, like, zebra stripes. Because in the mid-80s, it was, the wild look. And it had a regular trem, but it had very high output pickups that they were like rails, not instead of the pole pieces. And I remember hearing myself play. I recorded myself, and it was like we always do, practicing, develop my speed. I got so fast on it, I could not believe it was me, and it was incredible. I was able to, jump these hurdles, like at these monumental paces. I was like, it was because I was practicing. I was always, doing these drill exercises, and of course, you're gonna be able to do stuff that's, very mind blowing fast. Faster than that and more cleaner. It was mind blowing. But when I heard the playback, there was something that was missing, and there was no melody. So when I walked to my friend's house and we had band practice, I was in this band called Exit. We did a lot of Rush from the Exit, Exit Stage Left. I guess we were a tribute band, but we didn't even call ourselves a tribute band. But I was also writing music. I'd walk to rehearsal because it wasn't too far from my house. And I had my little cassette, like a Walkman, but it was not exactly a Sony Walkman. It was a copy of a Sony Walkman. I had my cassette tape and have my headphones on. I'd be listening to anything from the Rush songs to some early Iron Maiden, but mostly Rush, Al Di Meola, Robin Trower, and Santana. And one thing that I noticed with Santana's playing is that he'll just take notes similar to what how this is where I get a lot of the ideas, but kind of put my own thing. Is it? You know, I would just bend the notes slowly and try to get that sustain out to make the notes to get value out of notes. Because there's one thing when you're playing fast, the whole section's got to be reminiscent, basically, of one note, if that makes any sense. But in that process, all those notes you're playing in between, no matter how precise and accurate, you cannot really focus on an emphasis. Not like when you're just playing one or two notes. And I think that's what I was missing for my own likingness. So that's why I went back to having the balance, you know, with the shredding, but the melodic playing, because they got to go hand in hand, at least for me. And then another thing is too of still going and doing my classical guitar playing. So it's not my playing is not necessarily one dimensional. And I'm not saying that to put anybody down or anything. It's just that was my interest, basically. That's it. Now, as time was going by, you know, I'm going to get into the gear because this is interesting. You know, we did not have nowhere near what we have now. My first amp, good amp, was a Crate 1R, shaped like a crate box. And then later on, I had a Lab Series L5, and then my Marshall 212 with Super Lead 100. I guess it was a plexiglass in the 212. And then the PV Special 130s and 150. I had Special 150 and my Fender Twin. You know, all these different amps I had. And then the DOD pedals, I had a couple of Boss pedals. I had a Boss Octaver. When it first came out, it was called the Octaver. OC1. I bought that in 1983. You know, it had a Boss Distortion and a Boss Flanger. You know, purple one. And then the Ibanez delay, analog delay, and then a Boss analog delay. So, I mean, I had all this stuff. I'd buy, trade in. And then the DOD pedals. And we really didn't have pedal boards like we have now. Because what started to happen was, as the 80s were starting to progress, the rack mounts were coming in. So people were ditching the pedals. People were ditching the analog. They were getting rid of the tube amps. They were ditching anything that was analog. They were going all digital. And then I do remember when Boss launched its first digital delay pedal. My friend Andy had one. And that was revolutionary because prior to that, you just had the analog pedal, delay pedal. If you wanted digital, you had to have a rack mount. Rack mounts were pretty pricey. I got to the point where your rack mount was almost as high as your Marshall stack. You know, you had all this stuff. And then what the smart thing was when they took that idea, because you would have the pedals. Some pedals did not have any LED screens, so if you would change a parameter on your rack mount, you had to look back at the rack mount, you know. Then they got smart and they said, okay, and as technology was progression, they were putting them in the floor units, the early floor units, like the Zoom. I had a Zoom 2020, then later on a Zoom 2100. Now, I do think, and I could be wrong, MXR, the old MXR, not MXR that's owned by Dunlop, by Jim Dunlop, but the old MXR. I could have sworn my friend Robert, in high school, so this would be 1981, had an MXR multi-effect processor that had 3 or 4 different pedals in it, just like how the Boss pedals are. And he was the only one I've seen have something like that, and that was it. And then And then later on, Rhythmic did go out of business. They were going through some changes. So our gear was very limited. So everything we had to do, we had to pull out of our hands. We had to. We had no choice. But that whole experience, that's what gets you good. And the difference is going through that, long period of having to do that versus you get something, it instantly sounds good, and you want to learn how to play something, you go on YouTube. It's kind of instant. Nothing wrong with that. But you cannot cram in 40, 50 years of playing into a few months. And I'll tell you what, when I was developing my technique, and when I was developing the technique and making those progress, man, those hurdles, those leaps, that was fast tracking it, and it was great. But there's no way I could fit in years of experience into a few months. And I, being young, you don't understand. You kind of do, but you really don't because you're young. I'll never forget this guy telling me this at Chicago Music Company. Not Chicago Music Exchange, but Chicago Music Company. His name was Dave, I think it was Dave. And yeah, he told me and Andy, he said, man, what you guys play, you gotta play like in theaters. That sounds good, man. And then he would go on to say, but, come see me in 20 years. And at first, you're young, you think, there's someone trying to put you down. Because when you're developing technique, and when you really start to get technique developed, and you play in front of someone that's been playing for a long time that really didn't work on technique, they sometimes take it the wrong way. And you don't realize it because you're young. You know what I mean? So there's this generation gap. So at first I thought he was, making pot shots at me. But what happened was, let's see. Yeah, right, Randy kept a lot of gear that we got rid of, man. Oh. But when he said this comment to me, come see me in 20 years, when I look back, he wasn't insulting me. He was basically telling me, there's more to it than just being good. And just take a look at what's going on out there. Well, that was over 40 years ago. And yeah, there's a lot has changed, man. So much have changed. What is happening, brother? Thank you so much. Let's see. Oh, wow. Yeah. It's a neck through. We bought this, plus, actually we bought this, I think it was in August, right? But maybe for an early birthday present back in 2000. So it's 24 years old. And does not have any hot output pickups. Still has the stock pickups, but this is not the original Whammy Bar, but it's like the original one because they didn't have the black one that came with it, so they had a silver one. And I actually had a different whammy system on here. It's still with the Floyd, but a different Whammy Bar, and it was too heavy because it would drag. So I put back the black Whammy Bar, the one that just collar screws on here. I had this student, I think her name was Izzy, and she had a silver with the black binding and black pickups Schecter guitar. Nice guitar. Flat matte finish. But she had the black Whammy. She had the black Whammy Bar. No, she had the silver one. She wanted the black one, and I had the black one. So we agreed to trade. So if she's watching this, and this is maybe 10 years ago, maybe longer. I don't know. I still have the Whammy Bar that we traded. See, fits like a glove. But yeah, it's a great guitar, man. Great guitar. The Roland pickup was put on 2002 with the GR33. And I have also works with the GR55, which I have up there. Which is another thing. I remember when seeing the first Roland guitar synth was over at Chicago Music, and this back in the late 70s. And that was very expensive. It was shaped like a Les Paul, so it was a Roland guitar with all switches, and it had a monster pedal board, and the plug pickup was huge. And I always thought, wow, to do a guitar synth, that would be so cool. When I'd be listening to my fusion albums, Return to Forever, Romantic Warrior, and then Jean-Luc Ponty and all that, I would vision myself, geez, if I could play all those parts, and actually sound like that. Well, fast track to the early 2000s when I first got the guitar synth, and then actually I got the very first loop pedal that's up there, the Boss RC. I can't remember. Maybe I could grab that down. Maybe I ought to grab that down. The RC20. This is it. You can see that. And then I also have the RC20 XL that could do the fade out. So we got this in, was it 2003, 2002? Because prior to that, I would record myself on my multi-track recorder and then bring it onto a disc, and that's how I was doing my backing tracks. So when I was in my mind back in the early days, in the 80s, and thinking that, wow, if I could do it all, because after a while, I mean, I love playing in bands. That's all I was doing. But the problem was finding the people. We had local papers back up in Illinois, the Illinois Entertainer. We grabbed that, and I would always look for a drummer. Grab my boombox, grab some blank cassette tapes, and jam and record everything and pick out where my ideas were going to come out of, and start writing like that. And then putting people together and put the band together, and that. It would get so frustrating because I wasn't really playing out much. And that's what I wanted to do. And when I got to that point, man, I hit it hard, man. So when we started recording our CDs, and then we started doing these like guitar clinics, which I'm gonna get onto my YouTube channel, my other YouTube channel, in a moment here. That was kind of a demonstration of how I come up with ideas and play them against a backing track before backing tracks were even out there.
Hey,
yeah.
A guy named Bill D from your Lakeview days
is
supposed to ask how you're doing.
Billy, what's happening, man? Let's see if I can find it. Let's see.
Very bottom.
Very, very bottom. Thank you so much. Yeah, Bill Dean. Yeah, from Lakeview. Oh my God. Doing great, Bill. Doing great. You know what? It was at your house, if you remember, and you put on the album Van Halen 1. And remember when we heard Eruption? Dude, that was freaking awesome, man. Oh, I just unplugged myself. Sometimes I got short chords in here, sometimes I got long chords in here. And I think, Bill, you'd see me play at the Borders when I had this guitar. Still have it. But, all the shredding, and I used to play a lot, but, I never really, I could learn Eruption, but I never took the time out, but, the tap. Kind of hard doing this sitting down, But, yeah, it was some great times, man. And I think, Bill, you were running sound for, I forget what band it was, but yeah, you went on the road. Yeah, the big stereo days. Remember that, man? Remember the quadraphonic stereo systems, 4 speakers? But if you didn't have that, you just had 2 monster stereos, 2 speakers. I was talking to Deb about this a few days ago. Remember the Kenwood stereo systems we had, the Pioneer, and man, with the JBL speakers and all that? I mean, they were monsters. They were monstrous, but boy, did they sound. They packed a punch, man. Packed a punch. And it was just incredible. So I hope you're doing well, man. Are you still in the Chicagoland area, or did you say to Illinois? I'll wait for you to respond. See, now my chat thing is working, Technology. I love it when it works. When it doesn't work, it pisses me off, man. I want to just throw this thing across the room, So, but yeah, I'll wait for you to respond to that. See if you're still back in Chicago. I tell you what, man. We've been down here in Florida 7 years now. And the first hurricane was Irma, but we didn't get much damage at all. But it scared the hell out of us because it looked like it was going to engulf the entire state. I'm like, oh my God. But the one that did hit us was 2 years ago, Hurricane Ian. And we did get some damage to the roof, but we were able to repair that. But I'll tell you what, man, it was like being in a disaster movie, earthquake. Remember in the 70s, the earthquake and the towering inferno and the Poseidon Adventure. Was like all that into one, man. I have never seen such destruction in my life. Huge fishing ships, barges, just like they were just picked up and just tossed, man. Big boats impaled by these huge pillars, man. Unreal. I appreciate it, man. Yeah, you're still here. Yeah, I hope all is well, man. I hope all is well. You and the missus, if you're married, if not, I think you did get married. I apologize. I don't remember everything, man. They call it getting old. We're not getting old. Everybody else is getting young. You always remember that. You're not getting old. Everyone's getting young. But, going through the things we've gone through when we were younger, we didn't know any better. So we had to try harder. That's just the way it is. But when going back to this loop pedal, that opened up doors because I could just record things right on the fly and then just go ahead and just accompany myself. Because again, it was always hard to get people together. Let's see. Great. With wife and 2 kids. Good for you, man. Randy, sometimes, yeah, it is. Yeah, you're right, Randy. It is. That's great, Bill. I'm real happy for you, man. You're a great guy, and you've always been a great guy. And we had some wild times at Lakeview. Man, that school was a trip, wasn't it? Some of those guys that were the Gangbangers, I went to grade school with them. And their uncles, I didn't know. I was just a kid, man, And then when they were gangbanging, I'm like, man, what the hell are you doing, man? But I think hopefully some of them kind of grew out of it. We're hoping. Some of them might not have. But anyways, so as time was progressing and we're doing all these shows, like when Bill saw me at the border, we used to do all these Borders bookstores. They didn't pay, but I would walk away with $100, maybe $200. It was great. Let's see. Yeah, good seeing you. Gotta go. No problem, Bill. Hey, always keep in touch. And if you want, get us. We exchange numbers. Get on our website, man. Same with you, Randy. Let's see. I'm trying to read the title. Everything. Maybe I need bigger glasses, or I should get my computer set up here. But yeah, no problem, Bill. Hey, Dave. Hey, thank you, man. I appreciate it. Thank you. Sounds good, Bill. Sounds great, man. Give your best to the kids and your wife, Deb, and myself. So, and I'll leave the live chat up so you guys can watch the reruns and all of that. You know, what was I say? Oh yeah, so with the looping pedals, and I was traveling, and it was very hard to get bands together, and then I was with Shadow Lord. It was great. It was a great experience. Great guys, man. Great Chad's great guitar player. Bill Bloodwin, great vocalist, and drummer Joe Durr was great. Dave Crash, great bass player. This is 100% awesome. I almost joined a band called Iron Vein, but our schedules, my work schedule wasn't, working out. But prior to that, I was in a band called Fourth Rising, which later on John went on to form a band called Rival. So part of the metal scene was the Chicago metal scene was great, man. It was freaking awesome. But when we started to travel with the classical guitar, the fusion stuff, man, I've been to places I thought I'd never be at, man. And it's just so surreal. And that's when I knew. I remember after I graduated high school, you go through all this, with bands and putting bands together, and I get people telling me, "Oh no, you can't do anything with that kind of music. The music I'm playing now, you can't do this. No, you have to do that." And I knew in my heart I'd be able to do it. It's somehow, some way, and it started to go when I met my wife. That's when things were really, really clicked, because she looked at it from a realistic point of view and not a personal point of view. She knew I could play, and she knew there's a market out there for what I'm doing, and she knew where to find that market. And that's the key right there. Know what it is you do and look for that market. I'll tell you what, I still do my club gigs, and I'll get onto that. Well, I hope I'm not going too late here, but I do want to touch on a couple other topics here that's guitar related. But when I would hear people tell me, you have to play the covers and you got to sing, they are partially right. I'm not going to 100% disregard what they're saying. No, they are partially right on that, but they're not 100% right on it. That's just it. And all my live streams of me playing is 100% proof that you're gonna find people that are gonna like your style of music because they're out there. They just haven't seen what you do, or like what I was doing. They haven't seen it because they're just bombarded with the covers. And there's nothing wrong with the covers. If you love doing them, you're gonna play with passion. You're gonna make it work. Boom. For me, it's not. I can only go so far, and I get burnt out on it, and I just okay, I can't. But that's just me. Doesn't mean that the music's bad. It just means it's not a good fit for me. But I was able to do something else. And those people that would come out to these restaurants would tell me, "Man, thank you for doing what you're doing, because we don't hear this kind of music, and we love this stuff." One place up the road would say, the people would say, "Finally, someone's playing something that we like." So, here's the deal. You have all kinds of audiences out there, from pop music, from metal music, from rock and roll music, from jazz music, fusion, blues, bluegrass, country. They are all out there. The reason why you don't see them in the restaurants or clubs so much is maybe that particular area does not offer this kind of music. And so therefore, they don't come out. So the person that's running the place, the establishment, thinks, well, geez, everyone likes Jimmy Buffett because that's all they're playing. I guess, I don't know. And then you come in with something that's totally different from an instrumental, and then you start getting a group of people liking. If it's still a little bit less than the regular crowd, or the regular crowd doesn't even care. They're watching a football game. They don't care. But you start to get people gaining momentum for them to come out because they like what you're doing. I tell people this: if you want me to play her, just tell the club owner. Because if I tell the club owner, yeah, they'll say, okay, yeah, but you're looking for a gig, just a permanent gig here. Yeah, but if the audience says something, that's your customer. So, if that helps anybody out there, if you see someone you like and you want them to continue to play at that place, Help them out by telling the club owner, telling the manager, hey, I like this guy or this band or this girl or whatever. I like this act. And I'd like to see it come back. I could bring more friends out, because then they're going to listen. Because in their eyes, you're not the musician trying to get the gig. You're the customer that's supporting the restaurant. So therefore, they're going to listen to what you got to say. Didn't mean to go off on a tangent, but I thought I'd throw that in there because I know there's other musicians that watch the channel. So we're making our way through all that, and one thing leads to another, and then this is finally we get to this day and age in this area and this time what we're doing with it's one man band thing, backing tracks. A lot of times I'll create myself. Sometimes I get off on YouTube and then enhance it because you always got to enhance it. Nothing sometimes doesn't work right. And then the live looping with no singing. For people who knock this, I understand. And when I would have people say, well, you don't know, maybe you never played in bands. I did play in bands. That's where I come from. But what they don't understand is when you're trying to get gigs and you're trying to get paying gigs, the restaurant owner only has so much money. And if you walk in there with a 7-piece band, unless you're doing a constant draw, which no one always does a constant draw because there's always people that are going to be able, they got to come and go. They can't stay all the time. They can't come out to every show you do. So the club owner / restaurant owner says, you know what, I'm tapped out at this. This is my price. I'm tapped out. So if you come in with a 4-piece band and they could only pay $350, you do the math, right? But if you come in yourself and he pays $350, I guarantee you getting paid that $350 is gonna be more than if you played in a 10-piece band that they say they pay you $1,000. Just do the math, because they gotta divvy up that $1,000 between 10 members, or 7 members, or 6 members. So you see what I mean? I know some people are not going to agree with that, but say I also do the classical and solo guitar, so it works. If you don't, that's a different thing, and you just need to find something that does work. But understand, you might not be able to pull a steady paycheck from it. See, this is another thing you got to think about. And then when you're in an area that you get struck with hurricanes and tornadoes and all kind of stuff, you lose places to play at. Real briefly, it will be. They're gonna rebuild, but there's this place called the Boathouse down here in Cape Coral. Caught fire last week, burned down. No more place to play at. They are gonna rebuild it, but it's gonna take years. It's gonna take a lot of years to get that one up and going because it burned to the ground, man. Nothing but sticks, smoldering. So you have to keep that in mind. I know Sunday we got a gig at Miramar Outlets, but now the lady said that they're gonna break it down to us doing like instead of 2 times a month, maybe 1 time a month, because now there's other musicians that she does want to give them an opportunity, and a lot of those musicians are the ones that lost the waterfront gigs and are still waiting for the rebuild. So see what I mean? This is what happens when you're trying to do this full time and you're in an area where you have disasters and you lose those places. You lose the place to play at, you're losing money. So, it is always wise to have a backup plan because you don't want to be out there begging, man. It's just, it's very tough when you want to go down that road. Unless you want to. And if you're young, when you're younger, you can rebuild yourself up. You can recover from all that. As you get older and you leave a place of solid source of income and you lose that place, now you lose your gig because of natural disasters. You go back to work, they hire somebody else. You just screwed yourself,
Janice Lala's on. Say hi.
Hey, Janice. Let's see. Oh, there we go. Let's see. Janice, yeah, a long time since I've been on. No problem, Janice. I know everyone gets busy, man. Dear, everyone gets busy. Everyone's got to take care of life. Yeah, thanks so much, John. See, I have my helper. Sometimes the chat goes off the screen, and I have to like hit this a few times for it to pop back in. So I apologize, guys. I don't want you to think that I don't care. I do care about you guys. You guys are awesome. Hey, Janice, I hope you're out there playing too. I gotta get on your channel. Same, it's been a lot of even Joe Winch. I haven't seen a lot of his stuff. You know, a lot of people haven't. You know, just been so busy and then worn out, man. I'm like, oh God. But I hope that you. I do remember one time, Janice, you had mentioned about, and this kind of broke my heart for you because it sounded like you'd go to an open jam, open mic, and then they were trying to like, put you on a push you aside or something. You know, that ain't cool. That ain't cool. And you don't strike me the type as a, trying to push yourself onto anybody. You just go there and right away if they want to, here's the thing. If they don't like your style of music, okay, there's people that don't like my style of music. That's fine. You can still be my friend. But if you're hosting an open jam, or if you're a booking agent that is, unless it's a specific venue that is metal, heavy metal, or country, or jazz, or blues, that's very specific. But if it's not deemed specific, then, and you're doing the booking, or you're doing the hosting of the open jam, you gotta have an open mind. You gotta give everyone that fair shot. It's like when these people run they run these festivals and that. It's going to be Cinco de Mayo. I'll respond to that real quick, Janice. But I want Cinco de Mayo, and then they're going to get a Journey tribute band and a Led Zeppelin. I love Journey, I love Led Zeppelin, but it's got nothing to do with Cinco de Mayo. No Santana band, no Latin band. All that. No one's going to listen to Latin jazz. Well, you Cinco de Mayo, you got Latinos in a certain area. I mean, what about them? Yeah, but I like this. You're the booking agent, and unless you're going to be the only one attending this festival, you got other people. So you got to open up your brain cells and kind of like, look at the demographics and look at what the event is and kind of cater to that. Yeah, I'm still all over the place, yeah, but not much playing out. If it's blues jam, I would only play blues song. Yeah, See, Janice, you're smart, And Janice, sometimes to go out constantly and play, it could be very tiring. Very, very, it wears you out. Wears you out. And then people want you to stay. And if you're already getting tired, depending on how late the jam's going. There are some jams back in Chicago, man, they go till almost 4 in the morning. How here's one way how I got into the habit of doing 3 and 4 hour shows, without taking breaks. Sometimes 5 hours if they want an extra. Is 2 reasons. One, from all the practicing I would do. I was obsessed with it. And then doing some of the jams, we'd play for hours on end. So it became a natural routine. And I remember the first time I did one of the shows, I was doing a 3-hour gig, I think it was. Maybe it was a 4-hour gig. I took a break, and they fed me. It was a corporate event. Nice steak and everything. I'm like, wow, man, these people are they're real nice to me, But you eat something real heavy, then you get the food coma, and then I gotta go back on and finish a couple of hours. I'm wiped out, man. So I stayed doing the gig straight through, so I could just stay in that zone. But man, I'll tell you what, when I'm done playing, I'm tired, man. I'm worn out, man. Especially now I'm getting older. Yeah, but I definitely hear you, Janice. If it's blues jam, you play blues songs. Yep. Yeah, you're still all over the place, but not too much playing out. Well, here's the thing. We were almost playing out down here almost every day or every other day. It was a lot, but everything did dwindle. Now there's multiple reasons. They do switch to musicians. That's fine. I give everyone a fair shot. And in some of the places, they just don't like what I'm playing, and that's fine too. They're entitled to have their opinion. If they want to have the Buffett songs and the, whatever they want, that's fine. But at least be honest about it. Don't BS, because that I don't like. The BS and I don't like. There's nothing. A soothsayer, smooth talking soothsayer with lies is worse than someone that could give it to you straight. You know what I mean? Because the lies are what's the most damaging. Oh, my coffee's almost getting cold. Jeez. So, with the combination of hurricanes, or a lot of it's the hurricanes, man. A lot of these places. Some of these people, man. We recovered 2 years ago from Ian. We had a little bit of Helene come through here, do some of the flooding. Not a whole lot, but a lot. Not a whole lot, but some. And then Milton kind of finished off. So just imagine, you rebuild after 2 years ago from Ian, and then here comes more hurricanes and wipes out. And some of these people, flat out, were saying on our local news that they may not be able to rebuild because it wears you out. It really wears you out, and it wears out your money. Even if you got a nice piggy bank, you got a deep well, eventually your money runs out. And especially if you're not putting money in, if more money is leaving the piggy bank than it's going back in, there's a problem. So some of these people, they might not come back. So you lose places to play. And then sports bars, some places are turning into sports bars. So there's all these variables that we're going through. So it's a little different. Yeah, right, John Dawson, no more this season with these hurricanes, man. No for anybody. I tell you what, North Carolina got hit real bad. That whole area, like with Randy Trent. Oh, you guys got hit worse. Well, I think that is the second worst hurricane since Katrina. Massive devastation, and it takes years to rebuild. This is not going to be a few months, and part of that rebuilding, the first stages of recovering from a hurricane is the shock factor. The first stages of the fear factor of how you're going to survive, and the uncertainty. If you go someplace safe, is your house going to be destroyed? Are you going to have to, move and just say, man, I can't rebuild. My house just got destroyed. Thank God ours didn't. But some people did. After that shock factor and it starts to wear off, here comes the rebuilding. Here comes waiting for insurance companies. Here comes, oh, you got this permit and that permit you gotta get. Oh, wait a minute, but you gotta get the Army Corps of Engineers. Then we gotta assess everything. It is such a pushback weight of time that it's incredible. And with that alone, that could wear a person out. Now, when you add the shock factor of maybe you lost your business, maybe you lost your house, maybe you lost a loved one, and now you gotta rebuild with that heavy weight on your heart. I could see where these people are just thrown in the towel. Not everybody. They could try again. But for those who do, I understand where they're coming from. And I have a lot of respect for them, even if they have to throw in the towel. Because they can only how many times could you rebuild? That's the question. And everyone's situation is different. And this is what affects the music if you're trying to do this full time. So you got to keep that in mind. So, yeah, we're plucking along, and that's why we know Deb and I, we got our CDL license and we drive. I mean, doing the charter school is great because it's a great permanent gig. We could go anywhere. We could move to Texas with a good driving records that we have, perfect driving records, CDL license, boom, you're almost guaranteed you got a job. And then, of course, we look for the gigs, but, when we relocate, we look for those driving jobs because we know that's steady. That's 100% steady. And good enough money that you could float the boat and seek this out and do that as well. I mean, we both get up early. I get up at 4, Deb gets up at 4:30. But we got the summer break off. We do charters there, and they do the gigs. And I'm still, you obviously see, I'm still gigging. But we don't have to rely on this anymore as for full source of income. Because I'm telling you, when you do have to, it's a great feeling. It is great, but your biggest expense becomes your car, or you've got your mortgage in it, but really your expense, one of your biggest expenses is your car, because you're traveling, you're going all over the place, and that money you're making with the music, you got to make sure you're making that money, because one thing is you got to maintain that vehicle, then you got your regular bills to pay, then you got just the cost of living to pay, oh, then you need strings, if you need pieces of new gear, then because nothing lasts forever. So there's a lot to it, and it can get a little bit on the stressful side. It really can. And then if they decide, these places decide to change their format, and now you feel like, okay, I got to change into another different style of music. It's not just the songs you got to learn, it's the whole style you got to learn to get that feel, that vibe, so you can come across as authentic, so that you can maintain these gigs. Because people say, oh, wow, this guy's great, man. He's perfect. What we're looking for. Or this girl's great, perfect. And then you're not the only one fighting for that. So, and I'm not trying to be negative here, I'm just being realistic. So just keep all that in mind. Let's see here, Randy. See, I have a guy I play with, we don't like each other, don't get along, but when we play, we just click together very well. That's very interesting. That is very, very interesting. Florida guy. So you're down here in Florida, huh? You're probably someone I know, and the devil say, yeah, that's someone so-and-so. I'm like, oh, dude, I'm sorry. Yeah, that's a tough one. That is a tough one. Jacksonville, okay. And let me ask you something. If you're up in Jacksonville, do you have an in and out of season? Down here in the Fort Myers, Cape Coral area, we have a lot of snowbirds. And then they leave. And then, of course, they leave during the summertime. And then it dwindles down to almost nothing. And then, we still gig in that, but it's not busy. So up in Jacksonville, do you have that happen? An in and out of season? Just kind of curious. Some places don't. Miami, I don't think they do. Oh, well, we've done gigs in Miami. It's always seemed to be busy there. Tampa, although Tampa got hit with the hurricane. These hurricanes, man, oh my God. That's the only thing. Not as many snowbirds, but more than we used to. Well, then you get the snowbirds / part-time residents, and then they come and go. But see, if they leave, does it really hurt your economy? I mean by that, the population. You see a huge decrease in people coming out. Let's see, Janice. I have been spending a lot of time on Twitch. Okay, let's see. This is interesting. Twitch in the synthesizer community, and have a synth now, and playing notes. Yeah, on the guitar, and ambient. There is no market here for that stuff. Maybe in New York City. Or city, or Boston. Yeah, it's interesting. But you know what's interesting, Janice? Playing ambient music. Sometimes ambient music could also be deemed as meditation music. Now, it just, if you want to go out and start, soliciting and, start making some money with this, you might be able to try senior citizens facilities or rehabilitation places that they have, if they have any type of events, because with ambient music it's very soothing, very, very soothing. Yeah, the market is, let's see, the market is high on Twitch, and I am going to start streaming there. Good for you on Twitch. That's interesting. Janice, have you been given? Now, I'm going to kind of switch to a little bit on towards the YouTube thing, because this month, actually October 10th, we put our first YouTube video up. It was October 10th, 2006, on my other channel, Dave Byron. And I'm going to give her a little brief history here. That channel, I mean, that's when YouTube was first starting, and you didn't have algorithms and all this other stuff going on. So we didn't make any money per se, but we made a lot of business. People would watch the videos and they would hire me because based on what they saw. So it did generate business for us. And on that video, one of the reasons why I've got the Warlock, the very first video we posted up was it was Dave Byron playing the Star Spangled Banner, and it was at a guitar clinic. It was called the Max Guitar Madness show. It was a trade show, guitar trade show, and it was in South Elgin at the in the high school gymnasium. And I was playing this BC Rich Warlock with the Turbo Trem, and I'm doing the Star Spangled Banner. It's a real short video. Another video I have while I'm playing this guitar is maybe only a minute long, where it's called Dave Byron Shreds for Dean Guitars. And I was playing incredibly fast because it was a contest. And I think I was like 20,000. It was all kind of guitar players from all over the world. And I came in the top 15. And that was cool. It was a lot of fun. But let's see what Janice... So how this channel got started. This channel got started down here, actually by a mistake. I was doing I was playing my acoustic guitar. It was for a corporate event at a place called Woody's in Cape Coral, and it was for the Chamber of Commerce. And it's a real, I can't remember, it's a real short clip. And I recorded myself, maybe it's a minute and a half long, And I did it on my phone, and by mistake I found out, upload YouTube. When I hit the thing, and poof, the video went up. And that's how this channel started. And this channel in the beginning was called Dave Byron, but to break from the confusion, because the other Dave Byron, that is me, but back in Illinois. So I used a phrase a friend of mine used to call me, Rockin' Dave. So that's how this, later on, changed this channel to Rockin' Dave Byron. But yeah, we've been on YouTube for 18 years. And I know sometimes, Jan's like people like Old Man Dan, I know I watch his videos and he's a great guitar player. You got some great stuff and you get like very little views in that. It's like, it can be very depressing. Try not to let it bother you, because I don't let it bother me, because what I did was I went back to how things were with my other YouTube channel. I didn't know about comments or anything because you're technically challenged. So, but I would just put the videos up because I like to put the videos up, not because I'm gonna be a YouTube star and make what, $300 trillion. I see these videos where these people are, I'm not saying anything bad about it, but they'll try to coax people into, yeah, you could do YouTube, and older people like ourselves. And I think it's great to encourage people to, come out of their comfort zone. Don't be shy. You can make some money. And for those who are, I'm very happy for them. But it seems when I see these videos, yeah, that's a very good way to yeah, exactly, Janice, exactly. And, do it because you really want to. You want to share what you can have all the haters out there, no matter what. You can have those type of people, but it's funny, they don't put anything up, so there you go. But going back to some of these statements that people are saying, to encourage people, us older people, to, take that chance, and whether it's art or music or photography, go up and, you know, take that chance, and, you know, if you could make some money, that's fine. The thing that makes me feel like you're getting conned is when they tell you, I quit my 9 to 5 and I'm making more than my nine. Maybe they are, but it's almost like trying to reel you in. And the reason why I say this, people who get to desperate points in life, they'll hang on to every word you say. And where it becomes dangerous, if that's their only source of income and they got a good health insurance and they kind of need that, and they listen to someone say, yeah, this week I made $37,000 in 1 week. Maybe they did, but maybe that's the only $37,000 they made that whole year. And your annual income at your job is maybe you're at 57,000. So 57 is more than 37, right? So why would I want to listen to someone convince me to walk away from more money, especially as I know I need it, with good health benefits and a pension and everything, to listen to someone who maybe they can't really prove what they're saying? I have a hard time with that. I have a hard time believing it. You know, if if they have a neighbor, you know, you got the YouTube star that's putting these videos up and they're making all this money, and the next door neighbor happens to say, oh geez, that's the guy I seen on YouTube, oh, he's making all this money, and the neighbor looks out the window and sees on the driveway the YouTube star's car, the hood is always open. The guy's not a mechanic, it's not a classic car, the hood is open more times than it's closed. Well, why would that be? Well, maybe there's repairs. Hey, keep your car absolutely 100%. Repair it 100%. When it gets beyond the repair, can you replace that car with your YouTube job? You could tell me I should quit my job. You're going to kind of convince me. But can you prove to me that if I do this, and I guarantee I'm going to put the time in, you know, but when I sign up, new job, you know, when you go to a new job, they'll tell you what you're going to make. You know, I'll use it in these terminology because this is what I'm used to. You know, you go and apply for the job, your starting pay is, let's say it's $20 an hour. It's not, you can make $20 an hour. That's your starting pay. Now, if you stick with the place and you do good, you could work your way up and maybe make 30,000. I mean, 30,000, maybe $30 an hour. But starting pay, you will make $20 an hour. That's your starting pay. Not you can, not you could, or maybe, or perhaps. You will. See, that's the difference between the real world and then something that's kind of fluctuating. Because we've seen YouTube fluctuate a lot, so, you know. And I'm not knocking them. They got to do what they got to do. Totally 100% understand. But I have a real hard time listening to these people say they're making all this money. And they just lay around, they wake up whenever they want to, and, you know. There's only one gal said that first she quit her job, and I guess she still has her job, but then she was doing this video and she's driving Uber, you know. Well, then you have another gig. That's fine. I'm not knocking it. But if you're making all this money and you got to put all this time into this, then you got Uber going on. What's going on here? And then again, I'm not faulting anybody, but see, this kind of tells the truth. What's going on? When I would see these, I think I only watched one. I didn't watch all these videos, but it was one where one gal is saying that to do YouTube correctly, cut to the chase, get right to the point. That's good because everyone's got, you know, tight time schedule. Then another video, this gal's gonna tell me how I can make $50,000 in 2 days. You know, just on YouTube, about 2 days. So her video's like, I don't know, I think one of them I watched is 7 or 8 minutes long, maybe a little bit longer. Watched the whole thing, And I kid you not, what I heard in that very first few, about maybe 3 or 4 minutes, she goes on to tell you that, yeah, this is what I did, and I just couldn't believe it. It blew my mind. I couldn't believe it. And what I did was, I took these steps here, and then I did the research, and I can't believe I making all this money. And then what I did was I did some more research and that, and then I still can't believe I'm making all this money. So there was this constant talking in a circle and not getting to the point, where a previous video says get right to the point. Well, which one is it? Do I get to the point, or do I talk in circles? Which is it, this or is it that? Is it on Tuesdays and Thursdays when there's high tide and a full moon? Is that when it works? You see, this is why I personally, I think it's great if you could do that. I'm not buying it. If it happens, that's great, and I will still have in the back of my mind, have that backup plan, because this ride might not last long. So, I'm not trying to be discouraging or anything, but it's just kind of weird how this is, trying to reel people in and give them like the sucker's punch. Let me see what Janice got here. Let's see. That was my ending pay when I was downsized, $20.77 an hour. I started there at $3.19. Oh my God, an hour. 35 years later, only making. Oh my God. Yeah, it is crazy, Janice. It really is. Again, this. Now, but you see, at least you saw an increase. It took a long time, but you saw an increase. I have not done a gig with music where the pay went down. Well, wait a minute. That some of the days went down. The pay stayed the same. I had some the pay went up, and then the days dropped. So you get excited. You're getting a pay raise, with your gig, and all of a sudden, well, we're not going to have you every week. We're going to have you every other week. Well, now I'm kind of right back to square one, if not less than what I was making. So you see what I mean? So when I say these things, it's not to discourage people. It's just to give them 100% awareness of what you could be making. Again, when you're young, you could walk away from a full-time job and pursue something 100%. Because you're young, you got time on your side. As we get older, we're not that fortunate. And some places will look at your age, even though they're not supposed to. They will consider that, and they'll come up with an excuse why they can't hire you, or why they can't give you any hours, or whatever the case might be. Thank God with the CDL, having a CDL license seems to not being discriminated against. They seem to value people who are older, who've got experience. And that's a good thing, because everyone's got bills to pay. So, when Deb said, let's go back to work, and then we'll work around with the music, that was a smart move. Because like I said, we were living off our music. And it was a great experience, and I don't regret it. It was great. But when things started financially going down, and started taking more money out of the bank, because we still want to save, so as we get older, we want to be able to have a nice, comfortable life as we get older. And you know what? Some people want this, some people don't. We don't want to be nice if we're rich and that, but I'm comfortable, happy just having what our necessities are. I don't need a whole lot to make me happy. I've got a lot of guitars, right? As you see in the background, there's all the guitars, but that's years of collecting them. But now I'm not. The last guitar I bought was the Paul Reed Smith, but I'm not, on a big spending spree right now, So, and it's like I said with YouTube, it's a great thing. You can share your music and your art and whatever to the world. It's great. I do love it, and I don't want to put the burden on them that they got to pay me, when we're already be given a platform. But, and this is, yeah, let's see, Janice. That was 2006, Janice. Wow. Kevin Hall, what's happening, brother? Hey, Dave. Jeez, it's been a while since landing on you. Yeah, no problem, man. Life gets busy. I don't take anything personal, guys. I 100% did the same thing. That's why I haven't seen me on all these channels, because I just got busy. You got to take care of life, right? Hope all is good. Yeah, after the yeah. We lucked out this time. Randy Tritt, yeah, very much like that over here. Uh, get jobs anywhere. Yeah, so exactly. Yeah, exactly, Randy. Exactly. It's not to discourage anybody. Not. It's definitely not to discourage anybody. It's just a reality. Again, like I said, a soothsayer, convincing person that cannot back up their stories, but yet they still want to reel you in. It can be very dangerous, because when you take their advice, if they don't give you the whole story, and you jump on the deal, and you find out it wasn't for you, and now how do I get my job back? And if they decide to hire someone else, or they just close that department and they figure, well, we don't need it now, and you can't get your job back, and you put yourself in a financial situation, it's very hard. It's very sad to see. You know, the same thing with some of these restaurant owners, and I know, Janice, we had talked about this before, about how, some people want to mistreat you. The good people are the ones you want to work with. The bad people, as soon as they mistreat you, leave. Leave. And completely close that door on them. Completely, 100%. So this way, and as soon as you close that door, I know it's sometimes hard, because you hit with this emotion of that. Oh my God, I lost my gig, and was it something wrong with me, or what am I doing wrong? You always do that self-analyzing, and after the self-analyzing, you find out, I can't think of anything I done wrong. I didn't say anything bad. I wasn't disrespectful. Blah blah blah. And if that person that took over that place, if they got a situation, then leave. You leave, close that door, and as fast as you can, look to the future and keep yourself busy with that, and watch and see how that memory of that person that mistreated you, they just fade away. They fade away. The one thing a bad manager, bad restaurant, they're all fighting for business. They might not want to hire you as a musician, but boy, would they love to have you as a customer, especially if they see you out and about. And then they see you spending your money at other places, like a competitor. Boy, would they like to have that money. But if they mistreated you, why would you want to go even back, not only back to try to get a gig there, but why would you want to support them? See, they seem to forget that. It's a two-way street. Now, the good people who are honest, that's totally different, They got to cut back on the music, or they want to change the format. At least they're honest. No problem. It gave me a great opportunity. I'm very grateful and thankful. And if it comes back, we go back there and play, I'd be honored. No problem. It's tough, though. Yeah, but like you said with Twitch and that, yeah, so yeah. Let's see. Yeah, very much like over here, lucky to get a job anywhere, so the wages, yeah, it's tough. One thing with having the CDL license, this is something to think about, and I know it's not, some people it's not glamorous. Why, I don't know, but that's fine. There's really two sectors that's a good area to get into, Because when people hear CDL license, they're thinking, well, I'm going to be a truck driver or this, that, and yeah, you drive a truck if you want, but you don't necessarily have to drive a truck. I have an A license to drive a semi-truck. I don't drive a semi-truck. Deb's got a B license. We both drive the school bus. We're going for a charter school. I used to do NEMT, non-emergency medical transportation. If you got a good driving record and you got no DUIs, you could get work. You could get work, especially with the school bus, because it's high turnover. Because some people cannot handle kids. I have no problems with them. Like I said, if we would go to Texas, we'd get a job down there. Before we would leave, we would call. Secure the day that we go down to talk to HR department, whether it's with the school bus or non-emergency medical transportation. Here's my credentials. Here's Deb's credentials. Where do we sign up? We would probably go for the school bus first. And I'm going to tell you why. You have an AM shift, a PM shift, and time in between. You could take a nice little snooze because you get up early. And you could practice, you could record. You still have a few hours. You could still kind of get a few things. But one of the things you could do is you could contact restaurant and club owners, especially restaurant owners that have music, because a lot of times the right time to call them is between 11 o'clock and noon, that time frame, sometimes 10 o'clock. But a lot of times the 11 o'clock hour seems to work. You contact these people and then you could have your conversation, introduce yourself, ask if they have the music. If they do, you could pitch what you have to sell. And a lot of times if you're just, flat out honest and respectful to them, that right there is the key right there. You could BS people for so long before they find out it's BS. And then if they hire you based on BS and you have a personality that is kind of BS, it doesn't take long for them to see through that. But if you're honest, you say, look, I just moved down here. I used to gig here, or I've never gigged. I want to get out there playing. Would you give me an opportunity? And let's see where it goes. I'm willing to work with your budget, blah, blah, blah. Now you're throwing the ball, unless if the person's trying to take advantage of you, then you'll find out, and then you just cut yourself off from that person. But if they're saying, I'm going to give this guy a chance because you know what? He or she is just being honest. What do I have to lose? You open up a door like that, and if they start liking you based on that, and they see that, yeah, you're a good musician, you're good, I'd like to have you here. And now they already know that you have an honest and easy to work with personality, you're going to be golden, man. I tell you, you're going to be golden because nobody wants to work with prima donnas and complainers. They really don't, because they got so much going on. A lot of times it's the manager that has to be the booking agent. And some of these managers know very little about music. They hear it on the radio, but they know very little. And they know very little about what we go through. And I don't fault them. Because their business, their job is to run the restaurant. They have the food trucks. So, I play restaurants, they have food trucks. Delivery guys come. They got to deal with the delivery guys. They got to deal with the beers if they're selling liquor, all the liquor trucks. The meetings, they'll have meetings before a shop opens up. We used to see us at Yucatan. We're setting up and then they're having their meeting. So there is all these variables that they have going on. And the people that are good to work for are going to be the ones that are easy to work for. They won't BS you. If they have to let you go, they'll explain it. And they'll be sincerely sorry that they got to do that. But you got to look at their point of view too. And you know what? Chances are, when they're good people, if they have to let you go for a while, you'll be the first one that they have come back. Because they remembered that you understood their position, their situation. So see, it is, you all have to work together, Oh, man, I'm sorry guys, I'm missing out here, so sorry. Enjoy the rest of your evening, Dave. Yeah, I gotta start to tear down too, man. I gotta get up early. Thank you so much for tuning in, John. We really appreciate it. Yeah, Janice, I have to go. Take care. Hey, Janice, I won't be. I will not be a what do you call it, a stranger. I will start checking out your channel. It might take a little bit, but I will give you some support. And I'm glad that you're checking out other platforms too, because I'll tell you what, I will never ever want to mistreat a person. You know, you're good people, Janice. Remember the first time you got on our channel was with the RVs. I'll never forget that. Have a great evening. Hey, Kevin. Yeah, I'm retired and okay at 73. Wow. Hey, yeah, Kevin. I mean, you got way more experience. I'll be 61 next month, but you got a lot more experience than myself, and I have a lot of respect for you on that because you've seen and done things. You've seen changes that I haven't, and gotta respect our elders, man. People who have it's that knowledge. It's it's critical. We're all in this together, and it's sharing this information to help one another out. And I hope I never come across as I'm not a know-it-all, because trust me, I'm not. I'm not trying to be negative on some of the things I might say about, if you could go back to work, do it, save your money. We're all going to come to this point. So we might as well come to this point as smoothly as possible. All right, my friends, I really appreciate that. Helmer, what's happening? Yeah, it really is. It goes a long way, man. It really, really does. Yeah, it's a warlock. This is called the NJ series, next to series, and we got this in 2000. Actually, have another warlock bass, but that's not next to. Deb got that one first. It's like the Blue Burst one, and then we got this one about a month or two later. Yeah, but honestly, it really does. Let's see, Jim, Kevin Halls, yeah, showing, yeah. Thank you so much. I appreciate it. Yeah, I saw Led Zeppelin, and wow, 72. Yeah, that does count. Oh my God, you saw Led Zeppelin when Led Zeppelin was Led Zeppelin. You know, the glory days, man. Dale Palmer, what's happening, brother? It's always good to see you, man. Well, guys, we're gonna go ahead and shove off here, and I appreciate everyone tuning in. I'll leave the live chat, the live stream up, and if you want to put in the comments, go feel. And you know what? Always, you're always welcome to have your opinions. And so, if I'm saying something wrong and I'm proven wrong, I'll apologize. Because I don't know everything. I just know what I know, what I've been through. That's it. But it's all about sharing these experiences with people and helping let everyone know that no matter how alone you might feel, there's people that are also alone, and we're all in it together. And we try to get through life helping one another out, because we're going to meet up each other on the other side, so might as well. And for those, we all make mistakes. Don't worry about it. You know, all becomes forgiven. So we will be doing our gig Sunday at Miramar 1 to 4. We'll stream that. And if you could tune in, fine. If not, we'll leave it up. You can watch it at your convenience. Not a problem, guys. So I appreciate everyone tuning in. Again, 50 years of guitar playing. Maybe I'll get another 50 more. That'd be great, huh? 18 years of YouTube. Let's see how far it goes. All right, guys. You have a great evening. Thank you for tuning in. We love you all. Have a great evening. Rock on and God bless. We will see you soon. Take care.